And I can't see your faces, but I can feel your energy out there, whether you're listening today or in the future. So I'm going to share with you some ideas for just 25 minutes. It's a little snapshot of what I normally present in my workshops is normally like 75 to 90 minutes, but I'm going to distill it down so that you'll each have a couple of nuggets that you can take into your work and your family life to find more resilience. And so this talk is not about reducing stress. It's not about managing stress. It's about when you're faced with stress, how can you meet it successfully with a productive pattern rather than the approach where you wipe yourself out. And so this talk today is called Stress Mastery, from feeling stuck to feeling free. And I want to thank Arlene for inviting me to come and speak to you all. As you heard, I am a registered nurse for many, many years, and I'm currently a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. So I kind of transitioned out of my nursing career, and now I work with people in integrative coaching to help them master their stress. So I'm Duke trained, nationally board certified, as I mentioned, but I have 27 years of clinical experience at a major medical center here in Phoenix. That's really the trenches where I learned about stress is as a registered nurse, my own stress and how many times I wiped myself out by not having boundaries, by taking on the extra shifts, of saving the day, of being that nurse that could take those hard assignments or the extra special assignments. And so I know firsthand both how to not do stress and how to turn it around so that I could be a successful healthcare practitioner without taking myself out in the process. And so I just want you to know that I do have that healthcare background. And most recently, I've been working within the VA system, supporting the veteran community with whole health and integrative health coaching. And so if you like what you're here today, I actually am the author of a book, The Courage to Shine, How to Feel Confident Outside Your Comfort Zone. And my website, you can find information there. The address is that directions for number 4wellness.com. You can download my free ebook. So this is the book, The Courage to Shine, How to Feel Confident Outside Your Comfort Zone. The principles that I share with you today are in this book as well as more. So this is available on Amazon or Audible if you're an Audible listener. And coming from the perspective of healthcare, where I learned about stress, it is a memoir, as well as from my experiences, how I support my coaching clients to master their stress. And so I offer you this topic today. From my website, you're welcome to download my free ebook, How to Grow from Your Stress. This is a simple PDF format available to you if you want to go and download that. And you can see my mobile phone number if you want to reach out to me. You're always welcome to if you had questions about the topic today. All right, diving in. So all of you, without being able to hear your voices, I invite you to put things in the chat. I got my chat box open. I'm happy to read what you write, but think about where you are in your lives and what's really triggering your stress. You know, for you all out there, what are some of the topics that are stressing you currently? We know that out in the greater world, there's a lot of change happening. There's some uncertainty. There's challenges within our political arena, the financial arena, the jobs front, as well as when you're at home raising a family and managing your life. There's always a lot of competing priorities. And that's what's important to recognize for each of you. What this topic is about your own leadership. How can you be a leader in your life, whether it's on the job or at home, that you can be more resilient, more responsive, and less reactive? So the piece about stress that we want to target today is how can we get out of that, what am I going to do, freak out energy of, oh my gosh, this is happening, what a day, versus in the dropping in, a mindful moment. Okay, this is really challenging. How am I going to meet this challenge? How am I going to navigate the time I have and the work to get done? And so that non-reactive piece is really at the heart of stress mastery, so that life is happening, we're going to get triggered, and how can we meet it in a way that's more productive and less losing less energy? So that's really what the invitation is. And so recognizing that underneath our stress patterns often is resistance. Recognizing what am I resisting can often be insightful to help us move through our stress kind of patterns where we get stuck in it. That little hidden piece of resistance is worth exploring for yourself to see kind of what is at the heart of your stress in terms of what you're resisting might actually uncover the secret to turning it around. Also important that you open the door to stress when something you care about is at stake. If you didn't care about it, you would not be stressed about it. So, in the point of the job, front and what your roles are, you don't want to just quit your job thinking it's too much. It's like going to be the solution to reduce your stress is to leave your job because chances are, if you don't change your stress patterns, you're just going to rinse and repeat in your next role and create the same kind of scenario of stress patterns. Same thing at home. If your kids are just stressing you out or your partner's driving you crazy, getting rid of your children to manage your stress is typically not an option. You need to find a way to navigate those people in your lives and those situations that trigger your stress so that you can actually create a rewired pattern of doing a more effective response so that you can not be losing so much energy and putting your life and your health at risk from stress patterns. And so just understand that stress and what brings meaning to your life are important. When people say, I don't have any stress, I'm good. Well, then, I say, well, then your life is probably boring, or you're living so tightly in your comfort zone that you're not like stretching or growing in your life. And so it's important to recognize when we talk about stress mastery, there's something at stake here that's important. And I want to appreciate in the chat is like the aging relative while you're still working full time. Yes, and how that is such a being spread so thin of being responsible for elder care and still being able to be fully competent in your job is a lot of energy output, and finding strategies to be able to support yourself to meet that challenge is really important and real for many of us that are either raising children or taking care of parents, or maybe we got both happening. So, as I've alluded to, values conflict is very important for you to explore in terms of what creates stress for you. In the chat example with the aging relative, the value there is to care for your parents, that they're safe, that they're aging well, and that you can respond to them when they need your support. That's an important value, as well as caring for children or how you show up on your job. And so what's important here to recognize in our time together is that there's core values that matter to you. We all have them. Those core values are like family, faith, health, economic security. And yet on the other side of core values are the operational values. And the operational values are often those that feel good in the moment or bring short-term pleasure. And so many times where we can go into values conflict might be where the core values are bumping up against the in the moment values that feel good. So you might be on a special diet regime for your health and you really want to be healthy. And on the other hand, at work today, there's a potluck because it's someone's birthday. And so you can see how easy it might be to have that piece of cake and enjoy the communing with your peers at work versus taking a stand with your value for health and your diet. That's just a simple example. But in the morning when you wake up until you go to bed at night, all day long, it's your values assessment internally that you're prioritizing, making decisions, and when they compete with each other, that can really open the door to stress. So we want to be able to recognize what values are competing: family time versus work time, staying late to finish a project versus getting to the gym. These are real. And so if we can pay attention and notice in the moment what is at stake here, what's bumping up against each other, that can internally help us to navigate a solution to adjust how we're prioritizing. Well, I can't do this today, but I can do it tomorrow, or to find another solution. Recognize in our dialogue when we start talking about what we should do. I should be home with my parents versus I really want some me time. I really need to recharge my batteries and do this thing I really desire. It's important internally when you hear yourself saying the should do's, that's the language of values conflicts. And the want to do's are really important to prevent burnout and to refill our tank and to make sure we're prioritizing ourselves, especially as healthcare workers, how easy it is to be so giving and caring that you put yourself on the bottom of the list. And I can actually sense some of the heads shaking out there because I've been there. And so that importance of the want to do's are important to pay attention to. The should do's are a sign that you're probably having a values conflict and some internal stress happening. And another one, this was one I did often as a nurse when I didn't have good boundaries or bottom lines, is saying yes when you feel like a no, not being able to be a clear no. And so many of us get a lot of stress and spread ourselves thin when we leave the back door open. Well, no, I can't help you, but if you look around and you can't find anyone to cover that shift, come back and I'll see what I can do. That kind of, it's a wobbly no, not a clear, hard, fast no. I really can't help you today. I hope you find someone that can step in. And so that's practice, learning how to have those boundaries and those bottom lines. And yes, I can see that comment about those poor boundaries. What I would say, oh goodness, if I would have been able to navigate clear boundaries and bottom lines stronger as a clinical nurse taking care of patients, it would have been a game changer. But I didn't have the understanding of how to do that. And so I'm going to give you a practice today that'll help you really stay tuned in to what you need for yourself, how to be a clear yes and a clear no. And really tuning in is a mindful moment. So staying on track, so much content, so little time. I just want to share a little bit about the new science of stress, really, that people believe and have believed for many years that stress is bad, stress is harmful, stress will create health problems. And that's true if you don't have a good attitude and approach towards your stress. But how people think about stress actually impacts whether it will be harmful or not. So the person that believes, oh my gosh, this stress is bad, it's going to kill me, they're going to have a shorter life and more comorbidities and health problems in the long run than the person that's also busy and says, oh my gosh, I am so busy. How am I going to get through this to get all of this done without wiping myself out? And so they don't believe stress is harmful. That person will have much different internal response to their stress that won't harm their health. So at the heart of it is how you think about this, your stress does have an impact on your happiness and your success. So it's the hardwired patterns that release all these excess stress hormones versus accessing the channel that's more the rest and digest, the stress resilience path. And so this is what the opportunity is how you can rewire your patterns to overcome the sabotaging stress response and create some more productive responses. And so I want to share with you the 3 typical types of stress response so that you can have some awareness. There's more than one way of stress. We all know the fight or flight. We know the fight, flight, or freeze, running away from the saber-toothed tiger. Everyone in their stress talks about the saber-toothed tiger, but it's not the same context as the true application of fight, flight, and freeze is to be life-saving. So it could be to avoid a car accident or to escape from a dangerous situation. You might not run into any saber-toothed tigers, but I do want to share these. So the first response you want to train and to turn around in your day-to-day with the family in the kitchen with a blow up, at work having a hard day, whatever's happening in your life, is you want to have an attitude of meeting your stress as a challenge. In the challenge mode as stress response, you're going to learn more from the situation. You're going to stay in solution focus to see the bigger picture of how you can navigate through something. And it's a much more productive way to meet those stress triggers of a difficult person or a situation in life when you can address it as meeting a challenge. That this is important. An example would be the athletes who have the big game. So it's football season. Some of you might be football fans. And before the big game, the athlete is feeling the butterflies in their stomach, the sweaty palms, but they're excited. They're looking forward to the game because they want to win. They want to meet the challenge. And so anytime we're meeting our stress triggers as a challenge that we can learn and grow from, it's going to be much more productive. And on the inside, you're going to have a much lower stress hormonal response. You're going to get the little boost of stress hormones to focus on the problem or the opportunity. And then they're going to come back down again, and you're going to have a much more friendly environment rather than those stress hormones flooding the body and bathing the cells and creating all those health problems. Yes, I'm just trying to keep up with these chats. Yes, cultural dance. Please recommend. Okay, stay tuned and we'll go through some more. All right. I would say to the person, well, I'll give you another example at the end. So then tend and befriend. Tend and befriend is really important for everyone to know that when we lean in for support or we give support, anytime we're meeting adversity, dealing with a loss, feeling confronted, that those life situations that are difficult, when the tend and befriend mode is accessed, we're leaning in for support from another. And it actually releases the oxytocin hormone that will create this tend and befriend, this social connection that brings a bond. And the oxytocin actually dampens fear and increases courage. So the more that we reach out and support one another and offer support or have that safe person that we can empty our basket as they listen to hear our challenge, it's a two-way channel. When we give support and receive support, we both feel that boost of the oxytocin to be more social, more courageous, and less fearful. And so an example of this one would have been during the fires, during floods, during when you see these adverse events on the news, for example. In the background, you see the community coming together. You see everyone pitching in and supporting each other and feeling that tapping into courage. And so that's how it is like in a community level. But on a personal level, it's always very important to have that trusted person that you can share with or share for. Again, not giving advice, just listening and letting that person empty their basket of what they're worried about. It's very nourishing for those we care about. And at work, it could be in the lunchroom, with your peers or at home with your loved ones. And then this last one we all know very well, the fight, flight, or freeze is how we are wired as humans to survive life-threatening events. So it's not meant to be used when you have a blow up in the kitchen with your partner or this rough day at work, that this is the mode that we overuse, that we've hardwired many of us as our typical go-to default response. And so here's the one we want to start retraining into: how can I see this as a challenge I can learn from? Or who can I reach out to support so I can diffuse my anxiety and my stress? And so that fight or flight is definitely something you want to access if you're driving home today and you have to avoid a car accident. You want to have that laser focus, that quick in the moment, action to stay alive. Same thing, you find yourself in a compromising situation, in a parking garage or an alley, you want to be all heightened alert and ready to respond to save your life. You don't need it in the day to day. It's like trying to kill a fly with, instead of using a fly swatter, you're using like a sledgehammer. It's going to be creating this environment of those stress hormones continually, as long as you're feeling that stress, flogging this body, bathing the cells, and creating that chain reaction that leads to the typical health problems that are linked to stress. So the true stress response for fight or flight should be quick, boost, and then this event is over. When we're doing it in our day to day, we typically chronically run that mode, and it's very hard on our physical health. So let's give you a practice. I don't know how many of you are virtual in your work. And so I left these slides in here and we're, oh my gosh, almost out of time. Well, just know if you're spending a lot of screen time because you're working in a virtual environment, it can really impact our motivation and impact how we are productive. And so it's important that if you're having a lot of screen time, that you have strategies. I'll just go ahead to get off screen, take a break, go outside and get the sun in your eyes and the earth under your feet. Do take your lunch break off screen, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes, that when we're eating and working, that actually we're not connecting to our food, we're not present with what we're eating, we're not even tasting it. So it's important to take your meal break off screen, give yourself that little break to get off screen and stretch and give yourself that break. Now, back to this guy. When we don't have a productive way to meet our stress, we will do these other activities. And this is distraction, this is numbing out. These are often our go-tos that are very habitual. So it could be where we're having emotional eating of unhealthy snacks. We could be having that extra beer or wine, or perhaps we're scrolling on our social media or the Netflix binge. And so these sabotaging behaviors are what we want to find a new approach that's more productive and more empowering than where we go to if we stay numbed out and distracted. So I can see with the time we have, I want to give you a practice today that will help you. And it's really simple. It's going to help you how to prioritize and how to get a reboot in your day. So everyone get a sticky note out or a pad to make a note. You want to write down this practice. We're going to do it together. It's called pause, notice, choose. And it's just a simple mindful moment, and it's really easy to do anytime or any place. So the first step, you take a pause. So in taking a pause, you want to take a breath or two down into your lower belly. So your center of gravity is about 2 finger breaths below the navel and deep inside towards your spine. So inside your center of gravity below the navel, when you take breaths, slow, deep breaths down here, 2 or 3 breaths, maybe you need 10 breaths, but when you center yourself down into your navel, that will actually kick in the rest and digest mode of stress resilience. It'll slow everything down, like putting on the brakes. It'll also help you connect to being solution oriented and getting out of the inner dialogue in your head. That often is like away with the races, with that internal chatter that can be so distracting. So the first step, pause and take a breath into your lower belly. Next, in that pause, notice your truth in the moment. Am I triggered? Am I overwhelmed? Am I tired? Am I thirsty? Am I really hungry? Like, what do I need for myself? So you want to name, what is it I'm feeling in this moment when I stop and take this pause? Then here's the step to get out of the guy with all the bad habits. You want to choose, what action can you do that will empower you? What do I need to do in this moment? Do I need to have a conversation with that person that didn't do a good handoff? Do I need to make myself a cup of tea? Do I need to reach out to a trusted friend and say, hey, I'm having a rough day. Send me a little boost of energy. That we want to find, do I need to get up from my desk and take a walk outside? So in this simple practice, pause, notice, choose, it's like the defibrillator paddles. You're zapping the heart and you're stunning it for a moment. And then when it starts beating again, it's all in the proper electrical alignment of a good rhythm. And so you want to give yourself this in a day or a time at home or at work. Pause, notice, choose is a very simple strategy to help you in your day. And so to answer the question in the chat, if you train the clients you're working with to breathe down, take a few breaths in the lower belly, you'll be more present, more connected, more solution oriented. So many of us live between our chin and our eyebrows, analyzing and thinking and stewing in our mental emotional roller coaster. So the number one way to break that is to drop down to your belly, take some breaths, notice what you're feeling or experiencing by naming it truthfully, and then what action can I take that will empower me and not sabotage me? So I invite you to put that in your planner, put it on your bathroom mirror, put it in places where you'll remember, do it as a practice so that it becomes more of a habit. And that can really help you to have those mindful moments with a little reboot. And I think that's probably all the time we have. Arlene, how are we doing?
Thank you so much, Sarah, for your time. This is very informative and we really like the practice. Does anyone have any other remaining questions for Sarah? So, Sarah, I received a direct question.
Uh-huh.
What would be the best prompt that we can tell ourselves to start the practice? Sometimes we know it, we have heard it. It's the doing. What could make us jump into that practice and remember to do it the next day?
Yeah, that's important. Doing it and remembering it is really important. And so this is where I gave you the invitation, all of you. I'll just put my book up here because you might be interested in looking it up. By writing it visually or putting a prompt in your phone. So the best way to start a new habit is to be repetitious with it. So if you leave today and you say, I'm going to do that pause, notice, choose practice 3 times a day for the next, well, actually, it takes like 30 days to really start to rewire a habit. But if you say for the next 30 days, 3 times a day, I'm going to do the pause, notice, choose practice, and I'm going to do it in the morning when I get to work. I'm going to do it on my lunch break, and I'm going to do it in the evening when I get home, or however you wanted to do it. And putting reminders, either sticky notes or a reminder in your phone. Um, the more you do it, then it becomes more of a habit and a go-to tool that at the heart of stress resilience is having a way to access mindful awareness, to get out of the mental emotional loop that we get caught in when we're busy and overwhelmed and spread thin, is breaking down to just taking that breath, dropping in, because when we're like, oh, what am I going to do in stress mode, versus taking that breath in, it's like, whew, how am I going to get through this? It's more solution when we say, how can I navigate this challenge, versus the what am I going to do is much more reactive. And it's the reactive response where we lose energy. It's the solution. How can I navigate this? How can I prioritize? What do I need to do here? Is always going to be more of a response and less reactive. And so practice the pause, notice, choose, taking slow, deep breaths. Some of you might even know the box breath practice where you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, empty for 4, and you do cycles of that box breathing. But when you're on the go at work, it's hard to stop to do a box breath. But certainly you can do a pause, notice, choose in the moment, even if it's in, the restroom. Sometimes that's where we have to go for a moment for ourselves. Thank goodness we have those moments. And so you need something that's short, snappy, solution oriented that you can use in the moment. So I really recommend you all find a way to remember this pause, notice, choose, write it down, put it in strategic places, and then do it on a regular basis first to make it a habit. Then it can be your go-to when you need it. And again, if you want more tips,